There's this running joke that vintage camera collectors would make, which is something to the effect of, yes, I got it from a junk shop for $5. Well, in this case, it is the honest to God truth. Today we'll have a look at my $5 Ricoh KR-5 Super. The Ricoh KR-5 Super is the successor to the KR-5 that was released in 1978. Now, the KR-5 was a very low spec basic SLR with a maximum shutter speed of 1/500th of a second, a 55mm lens that had a maximum aperture of f2.2, and the flash sync speed was 1/60th of a second, so very basic. It was also really cheap, and it was clearly aimed at the low end of the SLR market. The XR5 Super was followed by the Super 2 in 1993, a more plastic and I suppose modern variant, but we're going to be looking at just the Super today. I've read that it's basically a rebranded Cosina CT1A, but my knowledge of the range of Ricoh and Cosina cameras are not wide enough to really confirm nor to deny this. Type, it's a 35mm single lens reflex. The operation is manual. The origin is Japan. Now, Ricoh actually owns the Pentax brand too. Date of manufacture or release was 1981. It was also sold as a Ricoh A50, the XR5, which this is, the CR5, and also the KSX1000, and it all just depended on your location in the world. It does have a built-in light meter. It's a needle type that you see on the side of the viewfinder through the lens metering. The shutter is a focal plane vertical metal shutter, which is great for durability, and your range is bulb 1/8 to 1/1000th of a second. It does not have exposure compensation, does not have depth of field preview. The winder is a manual lever. You have your ISO range is all the way from 12 to 3200. Now what I have here is the XR Ricoh F2.2 55mm lens on the Pentax K bayonet mount. Actually, they were released, the Supers were technically released with the XR Ricoh F2L, but mine wasn't. It's a 55mm. The optics is 6 elements in 5 groups. Coating is a single coating. Minimum focusing distance is a slightly disappointing 80 centimeters. The aperture is auto diaphragm. The aperture range is f2.2 to f16, and it is comprised of 6 curved blades. The filter size is a very useful 52mm. The lens weight is 140 grams. Dimensions is 63 by 35mm. The camera does not have a built-in flash. It does not have a built-in PC sync port. The flash sync speed, hot shoe, is 1/125th of a second. It does have a hot shoe, and what's cool is if you use a dedicated Ricoh flash unit, you'll see there's a little LED there, so it communicates with a flash. It does have a self-timer, and that has a front-facing LED. What I found interesting, and I only realized this once I read up on it, is that the mirror actually locks up during self-timer operation. I didn't take any selfies, so I didn't know. Which is great when you do longer exposure shots, actually. Because this is a great way to reduce that mirror slap and consequent camera shake. So if I was to do a long exposure evening shot, I'd just use the self-timer and I'd get a much better exposure. Battery is 2 SR44 or LR44 batteries, but it can operate without batteries too. The light meter just won't work. Also, the camera only switches on when you pull out the winding lever at around a 40-degree angle, I suppose. You can see a red dot there. Then it's switched on and the light meter will work, and this is a great way to conserve battery life. If you put it back, it won't work. The body construction is metal and leatherette. The body weight is 540 grams. The price that I've seen is anything from $30 to $80. And I must say that depends though, because they were essentially released with the F2L lens. And you'll find that those are slightly more expensive, a little bit more towards $80. If they're released with the XR Ricoh, the f2.2 55mm, which was technically released with the XR5 in 1978, you'll find that they're a little bit cheaper. only ran a single roll of Fuji 200 through it, and I enjoyed the camera thoroughly. I love the Pentax K1000, but the Ricoh KR-5 Super is a slightly higher spec cousin, and also in my opinion a bit more refined. And I don't think people are really going to argue with me on that, maybe you will. But it does offer a much smoother shooting experience. The light meter needle indicator works, and as far as I can tell, the exposure readings were always spot on. The camera feels good in hand. It's not too big, it's not too heavy, but it's not a small SLR by any means. The viewfinder is bright and it's easy to compose through. A great plus is that my K-mount lenses work on this body, and there are many quality Pentax M series lenses out there that you can use on this body. Apparently, and I didn't test this, it is not compatible with the A series Pentax lenses, but don't quote me on it yet. As far as the lens is concerned, it actually deserves its own video, but it's really sharp. The bokeh is fine as far as I can tell, and the aberrations, chromatic or otherwise, are minimal. Spherical aberration, definitely not bad at all. So the lens, great lens to use, and even great for video. The XR5 Super is so cheap, and considering that a lens like this often prices at like $30 to $40 on its own, it's like throwing a really great body into the deal for almost nothing. And as far as I can tell, it must be the best quality to price ratio for a camera, and if not, it must be very close. And as much as I love my K1000, I think my tendency from now on might be to actually reach for the Ricoh KR-5 Super. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.